Okay, guys, let's see today's questions. The first question is 654.000, and you can see that this very popular question has been asked from May 06 exams, RTPs, MTPs, exam, study material, practice manual, and question is very simple. So I will read the second one. Both are on the same lines. Mr. Sam, a chartered accountant in practice, provides guidance on post-issue activities to his clients. Example, follow-up steps, which include listing of instruments, dispatch of certificates, refund, etc., with various agencies connected with the work. During the year 1718, looking to growing needs of his clients to invest in the stock market, he also started advising them on portfolio management services, whereby he managed portfolios of some of his clients. Okay. Now, let's see. It's a very simple question. It says that there is a chartered accountant in practice and he has been giving a lot of consultancy services. So companies come up with the public issue, initial public offer, further public offers, and after the issue, what should be done? He is giving the consultancy advisory is working, and that is going good. Now he is thinking of entering into portfolio management also. So we need to comment as per the CA Act. Generally, questions of professional ethics, you'll see that they write comment as per CA Act. Be careful about that. It's very easy to identify questions of professional ethics. Now, so the question is, can he provide these services? Can he provide these activities? We studied today that there is a list called management consultancy services. If something is covered in management consultancy services, that means chartered accountants in practice can do it. Chartered accountants in practice can give these services. If something is not covered, they cannot do it. So when it comes to helping in public issue matters which arise after public issue, it's absolutely fine. It is covered in management consultancy services. But when it comes to investments, only investment advisory, investment counseling, you can give investment advisory. You cannot go for portfolio management services. Portfolio management services means what? You are taking money from the people and managing yourself. No, that is not allowed. Don't take that risk on your head. Don't take money from people and manage it. A lot of problems come with that. That is not allowed. So answer is initial things are allowed and later on things are not allowed. A very simple answer. So what are we supposed to explain? We're supposed to explain section 2 subsection 2, that is deemed to be section 2 subsection 2 clause 4. Simply explain clause number 4. It gives power to the council that they can issue list and define what chartered accountants can do, what they cannot do. They have done that. They have issued management consulting services. Then explain that initial matters like public issue, like related to the public issue, it is definitely allowed, no problem. But management consultancy services is not allowed. Then do the case discussion. So first give reference which section is applicable. Then tell what that section says. What is allowed, what is not allowed. And then case discussion. Simply in case discussion, you simply repeat the case which is explained. You repeat simply the case, whatever case is given, and the conclusion is for few activities he is not guilty, but for few activities he is guilty. For portfolio management services, he is guilty of professional misconduct under Chartered Accountants Act 1949. Now, next is 6,555. 6,555, again this question is very famous, on the same lines, asked many number of times, 07 exams and so on. And the question is, a chartered accountant in practice agreed to select and recruit people, conduct training programs for and on behalf of the client. Again guys, it's very simple. So whenever you get question which activities we can do and which activities we cannot do in practice, now it should be crystal clear in your mind that we have to think about the list of management consultancy services. Give reference of section 2 subsection 2 clause 4, under which management consultancy services the list is issued. Then talk briefly about management consultancy services, what is its importance, what are the implementations. And now come to the point. Yes, recruitment services are allowed. Chartered accountant can give recruitment services. After recruitment, he can train employees. He can he can make organization structure. He can make incentive plans. It is definitely allowed. It is definitely allowed. Answer is it is allowed. Okay. He is not guilty of professional misconduct. Very simple, straightforward. Now the next question, 655.050. It has been asked in May 19 exams. And what is the question? C.A. Nataraj in practice accepted the assignment as advisor and consultant to public issue of shares. He is advisor and consultant to public issue of shares. That's absolutely fine. That is allowed. You can become advisor to issue. You can help companies in public issue. You can help after that. That's absolutely fine. Besides helping the company as an advisor, he also underwriting the public issue of the company to the extent of 25% at a commission of 1%. Remaining shares were underwritten by banks and other financial institutions at same rate of commission. He contends that above assignments are part of management consultancy work permitted by the council. Do you agree? The answer is very simple. Again, the build-up is same. Give reference of section 2, subsection 2, clause 4, explain MCS, and now helping in public issue is absolutely fine. Doing the post-issue activities is absolutely fine. But three things are not allowed. Keep that in mind. Broking is not allowed. You cannot become a broker. You cannot do underwriting. You cannot do management consultants. You cannot do portfolio management services. So chartered accountants in practice cannot do these three things because they involve a lot of risk, and something goes wrong, they are going to spoil their name. They are going to spoil the name of the profession also. So these three things are not allowed. Underwriting is again not allowed. So he is guilty of professional misconduct. Next question regarding certificate of practice, 655.100. The manager of ZX Private Limited approached CA Vinith in the need of certificate in respect of consumption statement of raw material. So there is a manager, he simply wants a certificate in respect of consumption statement of raw material. Without having certificate of practice, CA Vinith issued certificate to manager of the company acting as a CA in practice and applied for COP to the institute on very next day to avoid any dispute. This is very simple. There is a chartered accountant, he is not having certificate of practice. Suddenly a company manager comes to him that he wants a consumption certificate, which is generally issued by CA in practice. He issued the certificate and then he applied for COP. So this is not acceptable. This is not done. So as per section 6 of CA Act, certificate of practice is mandatory. You should have certificate practice, and then only you can issue certificates and reports. Now surprisingly, they have not referred to section 6. I have mentioned this in author's note. That there is a mistake on part of chartered accountant. He is supposed to there is a non-compliance of section 6. So ideally, it's my opinion, and I think you should take that also. You should include that also. So you should give reference to section 6. That as per section 6, is it mandatory to take certificate of practice, and he's not taking certificate of practice. So it is a non-compliance of section 6. You should explain that. After that, you can also explain that he will be deemed to be in practice. See, we have studied this. If you're doing any activity which is CA related activity without COP, a deeming fiction will be applicable to you, deemed to be in practice. So you can mention that also. Surprisingly, institute has not mentioned both the sections. I will say that first mention section 6 that COP was required, then mention that such chartered accountant will be deemed to be in practice. Then after that you mention that. Now we are going to study in today's lecture. We didn't study this, but we are going to study it later. So we are going to see that there is a second schedule. In second schedule, there is a part 1 and clause 1 which says that If any part second schedule part 2 clause 1, if any chartered accountant, whether in practice or not, if they contravene any sections of CA Act or any regulations which are issued under CA Act or any guidelines issued by ICAI, they will be guilty of professional misconduct under the clause 1 part 2 second schedule. Now guys, so they have not mentioned section 6, they have not mentioned section 2 subsection 2. Ideally, I will suggest first mention the sections, that these sections are not followed, and then write that if sections are not followed, it is a wrong activity by chartered accountant. He will be punishable under second schedule part 2 clause 1. So that's a very important learning, that first mention the sections and then you go for this. And you can make a standard rule that whenever sections are not complied, mention that sections are, and at the end you can say that it is a professional misconduct under so and so clause as an extra remark. That's what we study from this question. Now 655.200. Now we have studied this in detail in our class. There is a chartered accountant. A chartered accountant in practice has been suspended from practice for a period of 6 months. For a period of 6 months, and he had suspended for, and he had surrendered his certificate of practice for the said period. So there is a chartered accountant. His COP is surrendered. His COP suspended. He surrendered during the said period of suspension. Though the member did not undertake any audit assignment, he undertook representation assignment for income tax, whereby he would appear before the tax authority in his capacity as a chartered accountant. Now, we have studied this in detail. Once you are a chartered accountant, you can do CA related work, whether it's accounting, auditing, tax, costing, finance, anything. You can do that. You can do that only in capacity of chartered accountant by taking COP. You cannot say that I want to do some work in a capacity of company secretary or CWA or lawyer or a graduate. No. You want to do CA related job, you need COP. Without COP, you cannot do it. So you mention section 6, give the requirement, discuss the case. Simply not allowed. Simply not allowed. We have mentioned this in short in our author's note also. And this is the diagram which we see in the class. Now, 655.300. Okay, 655.300. This is very interesting. On same lines, exactly on same lines. So here, again, COP is suspended. COP is suspended for 1 year. Certificate of practice surrendered. And now he wants to work as a GST consultant. And he says that to become a GST consultant, you don't need CA degree, you don't need COP. So I'm simply doing GST consultancy. Again, once you are a chartered accountant, you are governed by Chartered Accountant Act, and as per that, till the time you don't have COP, you cannot do any CA related activity. Okay, so same lines. Sir, it is a repetition. But why I have taken a separate question altogether? Because institute gave a wrong answer. Institute gave a wrong answer in this particular question. That's why. Institute said it is allowed. And I was surprised. Immediately we sent mail to the Board of Studies that this is not done. This is a very well defined concept that they cannot do anything without COP. How can you say it is allowed? How can you say it is allowed? And then institute reverted back and they rectified. So see, we have striked particular sentence which was not correct. So institute changed, and we have given author's note also. The institute has changed his answer. Earlier it was not guilty, and accordingly the answer was drafted. However, later on answer was changed to guilty only in conclusion, but the overall drafting is still the same, which creates a lot of confusion and contradiction. Removing the contradictory part will bring required consistency in the answer. So guys, uh, simple thing is you need to answer this question as per the previous question only on the same lines. This has been taken because institute did a mistake here, and in some question banks people have taken the same answer, and getting repeated and people following the same thing again and again. Okay, there was one more question. 780. 780 is one more question. What are the fundamental principles? Today we studied about the fundamental principles. Being ethical means always being honest, the most important thing, integrity. Next, being unbiased. Don't be influenced by personal benefits or pressures, being unbiased. And then always be updated, work carefully. Then show professional behavior. Don't do anything which brings disrepute to you or your institute. And lastly, maintain confidentiality. These are very strong principles, and on these principles, the whole profession ethics is based on. So they have answered the first question correctly. What are the fundamental principles as per Code of Ethics of ICAI? What are the threats involved while complying with the fundamental principles? So what are the threats involved? What are the threats involved while complying with fundamental principles? Threats involved. We are yet to study about the threats. We'll study it later. We are going to study this at the end of the chapter. We are going to study this. But what Institute did, Institute simply explained these fundamental principles only. Okay? They didn't explain threats. They didn't explain threats. So we have given those threats in notes, in author's note, that you are supposed to explain threats also. We are going to study these threats later on in the chapter, but be careful. So sometimes institutes suggested answers also go wrong. You should be careful about that, and don't worry about the threats. We are going to study about these threats later. So that were the questions for today's lecture.